On April 29th, 1986, the Buccaneers made a historic bad decision, drafting Vincent Edward Bo Jackson as the number one pick. Now, we all know Bo, right? How could that be a bad pick? He just won the Heisman the year before, and he's one of the most legendary athletes of all time. The problem was, Bo refused to play for the Buccaneers due to actions they took prior to the draft that would limit his baseball career in college. And he held a grudge, and he was one who knew how to hold a grudge. And this moment changed the trajectory of Bo Jackson and made him one of the greatest athletes of all time. Today we're going to dive into Bo Jackson and his decision not to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what that meant for the greatest what-if story of all time. Welcome to Daily Sports History. I'm Ethan Reese, your guide as you daily learn more about sports history, increasing your sports knowledge. Now, Bo Jackson grew up in Alabama, and he was the 8th of 10 children, and he grew up in poverty, getting hand-me-downs not only from his brothers, but from his sisters. He would get teased for wearing girl clothes because that's all he had. He would be a troublemaker, breaking windows, stealing bikes, picking fights, and grew the nickname Wild Boar from his siblings, which later would be shortened to Bo because of his wild energy and relentless spirit. And the age of 13 was the turning point for Bo, taking away that wild energy and focusing it. Him and some of his friends would kill several hogs from a minister by throwing rocks at them, and he was forced to repay the loss of the hogs. So he took on odd jobs to pay the restitution, and it really instilled in him responsibility and the value of hard work, and let him know to leave that wild side behind and focus on the gift that he was given, which was athletics. He would excel at 3 sports in high school, in football, baseball, and track and field. His senior year, he would rush for 1,100 yards on the football field. In baseball, in 25 games, he would hit 20 home runs. In track, he would win the state title in the decathlon 2 times. And often during the season, he would have such a large lead, he wouldn't even run the final 1,500-meter event and still win the contest. He would also set records in the indoor high jump and triple jump, doing all this without really stepping in the weight room. He was known for his power, but he got his physique from playing the sports, not from the gym room. So after high school, he would go on to get drafted by the New York Yankees, but he chose instead to go to Auburn to take the football scholarship because he would also be able to pursue baseball while at Auburn because he equally loved both sports. And he had immediate impact on the football field. His freshman year, he had over 800 yards and 9 touchdowns. And he would top that his sophomore year with over 1,200 yards and 12 touchdowns with nearly 8 yards a carry, helping lead Auburn to an 11-1 record, finishing 3rd in the national polls. Now, his junior year, he would be injured, but he would rebound his senior year with the best season he would have in his entire football career, rushing for 1,700 yards and averaging 6.4 yards a carry. And this would lead him to win the Heisman Trophy over Iowa's Chuck Long by the closest vote in Heisman history. And after this, he was excited, looking forward to his final baseball season because his junior year was great. He had a batting average of over 400 and was looking forward to one of his greatest seasons on the baseball diamond as well. But something happened before that. See, the NCAA had a lot of rules back then that they don't have today. Their sanctions have become a little more lax. Amateurism was huge back then, and the slightest thing could derail your entire college career. Coming up that season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had the number 1 overall pick. And unlike normal seasons, Bo Jackson was the clear number 1 pick for that draft. No one else was better. Just to put this in perspective, there was only 1 Hall of Famer in that entire draft, including Bo Jackson. And that would be defensive end Charles Haley, who would be taken in the 4th round. So it wasn't a stacked draft, but there were future Pro Bowlers and Jim Everett, Leslie O'Neal, Keith Bayers, John L. Williams, Ronnie Harmon, Will Wofford, and Neil Anderson, who were all taken in the 1st round. But Jackson was a clear number 1 favorite, and running backs were valued even more back in the 80s. But with Bo being the clear favorite, he also had interest in baseball. Everyone knew Bo played baseball as well as football in college and had already been drafted previously by the Yankees. And they didn't want this situation to happen that happened with John Elway, a few years earlier where he used baseball to get his way to another team. But Bo didn't go the same route, and neither did the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. As the owner of the Buccaneers, Hugh Culverhouse, aggressively pursued Jackson and arranged for a private jet to fly him to Tampa Bay for a physical and meetings. Culverhouse assured Bo and Auburn officials this trip was cleared by the NCAA. It would not jeopardize his baseball eligibility for that season. But he did not get approval from the NCAA, and the NCAA ruled that Bo was ineligible for receiving benefits from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So his baseball career was over at Auburn. Now, hearing this, Bo was beyond mad. He loved baseball just as much as he loved football. And he didn't view this as an honest mistake. No, he thinks that they purposely did this so he would not play baseball and would have to come play for them. And I tend to agree with him. It may have been a mistake, but a mistake that went in their favor. And so Bo told them, do not draft me. I will not sign with you. But that didn't matter to the Buccaneers. They still thought nobody would not play for us, and at worst, we could trade him away. But the problem is, that's not what happened. On April 29th, 1986, Pete Rozelle came up and announced with the number one pick of the 1986 NFL Draft, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers select Vincent Bo Jackson, who was actually backstage and came out to shake Rozell's hands, but he would not go on to sign the contract, which would be a record-setting contract. They gave him a deal, 5 years for $7 million. I know that doesn't seem like much now, but that would be the most a rookie has ever gotten. But in June 1986, in the fourth round of the Major League Baseball draft, the Kansas City Royals selected him and gave him a 3-year, $1 million contract. So for Bo, this was not about the money. This was about principle, the disrespect that the Buccaneers did to him. And he would go on to play for the Kansas City Royals that year and be so good that he would get called up that same year to the Royals. And Bo Jackson would be the first Heisman Trophy winner not to play for the team that drafted him since 1958. And the Bucs would lose his rights, and he would go on to be drafted on the following year by the Raiders in the 7th round, who gave him a $500,000 signing bonus and told him in his contract he could play baseball, and after the baseball season was over, he could come play football, which really showed him that they wanted him to be able to do both sports. And this is all where the Bo Knows Sports came along with the big Nike campaign, which made him more money than he could have made with the Buccaneers. It made him a star. But you know what's interesting? And he would go on to play in both baseball and football for about 4 years. His rookie year, he would rush for over 500 yards and 6 touchdowns in only 7 games for the Raiders. And in baseball that year, he had 22 home runs and had 10 stolen bases in his first full-time season. And in 1989, he would rush for 950 yards in 11 games, as well as hit 32 home runs and have 105 RBIs, being selected to an All-Star for the Kansas City. And he would become an All-Star in both the NFL and Major League Baseball, being the first person to do so. But unfortunately, on January 13th, 1991, in a playoff game versus the Bengals, he suffered a dislocated hip injury in a routine tackle because of how powerful his legs were. This is the injury that many say that only he could have gotten because of how powerful he was. Now, he was able to come back from the surgery, but his football career was over after just 4 seasons. Meaning he would never make the Hall of Fame and just be remembered as a blip, as he never rushed for over 1,000 yards. But he would go on to return to baseball and play a few more seasons with the Chicago White Sox and the California Angels, but wasn't the same as before, and finished his career with only 8 seasons. He would have over 140 home runs hit and score over 16 touchdowns in his career, and is often known as one of the greatest two-sport athletes to ever live. Even though it was a short 4-year window, it was a fun time while it lasted. The question is, what do experts think would have happened if he focused on just one sport, or if he got picked by another team? Now, if he got picked by another team, most likely something similar would have happened. It's a lot of wear and tear to be playing a sport basically year-round. There would be a couple months off after the football season before baseball started, and baseball is less taxing on your body, but it still is a difficult thing to do. But his football skills was way off the charts. It said that he ran a 40-yard dash with 4.1 seconds, something that has been unmatched by many. Even though it wasn't a computerized timer, it's still a crazy feat. And many think that he would have been a Hall of Famer for sure if he only focused on football. And it's hard to doubt that in his 4 seasons, he really did a lot in part-time play. And maybe he would have even surpassed the likes of Walter Payton and Barry Sanders, as he averaged 5.4 yards a carry in just 38 games. Now, if he only focused on baseball, he was a lot rawer of a talent in baseball. He was still good enough to be an all-star, but he only had a career batting average of 250, not the greatest. He was a power hitter, so he would have been great in the 90s era where power hitters were great, with the likes of Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, but it's hard to see how far he would have gotten. He definitely would have been maybe a perennial all-star, maybe borderline Hall of Famer, but many think that his true greatest sport was football. And if he would have focused on that, he would have had the chance to be one of the greatest all time. But instead, we just get one of the greatest two-sport athletes of all time. Now, he wasn't the only first-round pick not to play for the team that drafted him. It actually started in the very first NFL draft, where Jay Berwagner was selected by the Philadelphia Eagles, which we covered on a previous episode. And he demanded a salary of $1,000 a game, which the Eagles could not do. And they traded his rights to the Chicago Bears. And the Bears couldn't even come to a contract. He never played in the NFL. Then a few years before Bo Jackson, another two-sport athlete, John Elway, was drafted by the Baltimore Colts. And he threatened to play baseball instead of football. A similar story. But instead, he got traded to the Denver Broncos, where he played his entire career and only played a spring with the New York Yankees and did not pursue the two sports. More recently, Eli Manning was picked number 1 by the San Diego Chargers in the 2004 draft, and Manning and his family made it clear that they did not want to play for the Chargers. So he would go on to get traded to the New York Giants on draft day and win 2 Super Bowls for them. But don't feel bad for the Chargers. They got Hall of Famer LaDainian Tomlinson in the deal. So was this the greatest? So this is not something that happens very often, as these great generational athletes do have some leverage and can use it to get exactly where they want to be. And if you want more NFL draft content, check out the NFL Draft Big Boards. I know the draft happened last week, but there's still a lot to uncover about what happened, as there were still crazy moments in this year's draft as well. As the host, Brandon, takes you through the NFL draft, fantasy football, and college football analysis so you can be up to date on the future of the NFL. There'll be a description in the link below for you to check them out. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure you give us a rating or review wherever you listen to. It doesn't matter what the review says. Just being there puts a big smile on my face. And I enjoy smiling. So do that. I will be eternally grateful. Tell me a topic that you would like me to cover, and I'll give you a shout out at the end of that episode. Come back tomorrow for more daily sports history.